Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Call of the Night Season 1, Episode 10. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, we find out Midori works at a maid cafe, and one of the employees kind of ends up calling out, so she needs to find a replacement really quickly, but she doesn't want to bring in another vampire because it's like, then it's going to turn into a little bit of a popularity contest, and it's just going to be who's going to be more popular and stuff like that. But then luckily Nazuna and Ko end up walking by. And for her, it's like, well, yes, Nazuna is like, for one, I think a very unique type of popularity of but also the whole point is she won't lean into it. It's just kind of like, well, she'll do the job for the money, but she won't get too caught up in the whole I'm trying to be extra popular. That's the whole thing about Nazuna. She's popular by even with her face and stuff like that, but once again, she doesn't really try, and so that kind of doesn't, because she doesn't put in the effort, it's like, hey, you're the best person for this opportunity because you won't try and outshine me. So I even love they try to convince, Nazuna was like, hey, Ko, do you want to dress up in a maid outfit? He's like, why would I? Why would you even suggest that? And I love that Midori's ulterior motive to this is to kind of get Ko back for episode 7, where he was like, you're kind of a no for me. And she's like, oh, I'm going to show you. I'm going to be so cute, you will have no choice. I'm like, I love that. That's what makes this perfect. Not only you get Nazuna, but you also get an opportunity to keep Ko close by so you can show him what he's missing out on. And so we see Midori do her thing, kind of the whole leaning into the whole maid thing, and the guy's like, oh my god, even this coffee or whatever, even the bitterness of it tastes so sweet because of you, Midori, and stuff like that. He's like, I don't know if it's just the perfect balance or whether you're the one that adds this sweet charm to it. And then later on is because we find out that Midori basically became the number one maid here pretty quickly after working here. Yeah. Because I feel like out of any of the vampires we met, she feels like the one that leans into it the most. I mean, yes, being popular and stuff like that is part of their personality, just part of their whole shtick as vampires. But I think it's more so out of any of them, she's the one that leans into the whole cute persona. Obviously, she's at work and calling out Nazuna for not handling things and just being like, hey yo, and just being me lord, or being able to, instead of saying master, Nazuna handling things her own way, trying to smile and suck it up and just all right, I can do this. I got to do this. Because it's Midori gave her the whole script. She's like, I'm not going to remember all of that. But Midori's got to keep up her front. It's kind of the thing of yes, she's cute and stuff like that, but she's trying extra hard. And on top of that, she's kind of got a bit of a nasty personality. We can see that's underneath all of that. But we also get introduced to another one of her coworkers, Arasai, who used to be number 1, but now is number 2. But she compliments on Midori on everything that she does, is because it's she's spectacular and she's really cute, which is so interesting because for Ko's takeaway, he's kind of who she is. I think for him, he doesn't really see much of a difference between the Midori he met before and this Midori. So I guess for him, it's he doesn't get as sucked into it as other people was, because it's also that was my interpretation when he said he doesn't see much difference. It just feels like he's implying I just see her as the same Midori I met before. I can't separate the two because it just in my head, she's just acting like herself. I don't know. Like I said, that could be me misinterpreting what he was saying. But obviously the episode revolves around a Peeping-Tom case, because it turns out photos were taken of Arasai, and I love that immediately Ko's able to recognize it. I'm like, wait, how do you know? It's you can't really see. It's well, she wears her uniform in a very specific way. Because he was zooming in. She's like, do you really have to zoom in? It's wow, you're kind of a pervert, aren't you? But he's like, no, you can tell because she wears her uniform a certain way. And even some of the photos kind of have a little bit of her face in it. So it's wow, that is pretty impressive. But now it's about, trying to figure out who it is. So Ko's going to be working this case. And he's trying to figure out okay, so who could it have been and where could they have struck from? And then, with help from Nazuna, he ends up finding out about the balcony, when he realizes the photos were most likely taken from here. So, but then looking at it, it's the door's locked and it has a lock on it, so who would do that? And then I love Nazuna being oh, obviously it's Midori. And he's why would you even suggest that? Because you're thinking because she's a vampire, she's the only one that has athleticism to get up here. but it's also like that would also make you a suspect too, Nazuna. So for him, it's like, okay, so it's definitely outside. And I love that Arasai is still getting dressed, and she opens the window, and just like Ko's just staring straight ahead, trying not to look at her, but you can tell he's seeing her from his peripheral. He's like, I'm sorry, honestly, I'm sorry. And it's just, he's caught in his awkward moment. I also love when he ended up taking a photo, because he's trying to make sure, like, oh, the angle is right. It's like, this is definitely the position the photo was taken. And I love that Nazuna takes the photo and kind of has, like, a certain face. And it's like, Ko's like, ugh. And she's like, oh, you want to get beat up? And then she looks at it, she's like, oh, ugh. It's like, well, if you're not used to taking selfie photos, then you won't really know how to, like, position your face, which I wouldn't be able to, because I hate taking photos of myself. Which also is interesting too, knowing, like, once again, vampires, like, for reflections don't pop up, but cameras don't count. Even though you would almost think that would count, like, I don't know if that's the traditional case that vampires can't have their photos taken. Maybe they can, because it works differently. It's not the same as a reflection, but I think in my head I would treat them. I legitimately don't know. I don't really pay enough attention about that with, like, vampire fiction to know, like, how often does that come up about vampires taking photos? I'm sure something's covered. Plenty of stuff is probably covered. I'm just not thinking about it. I was just, like I said, is that a rule? No. The reflection thing, sure. But, like, the photo thing, I'm like, I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm like, have I ever really given that enough thought? But I love that in that moment, Ko has this, like, brain blast moment. He's like, I figured it all out. And I love how it was animated and shown where, like, all the pictures pop up, all the clues are together. He's like, I think I figured this out. She's like, wow, you could actually be a detective. Obviously, only when it comes to Peeping-Tom cases. He's like, yeah, maybe if I don't become a vampire, I could become a detective. It's like, well, yeah, that's if, you don't get murdered after that year time frame. Let's not forget about that, Ko. But but it's like, once again, it's a very niche lane of things that you'd only, like, all of a sudden when it comes to Peeping-Tom stuff, your IQ immediately jumps up all these leaps and bounds. But yeah, he's got it figured out, and I love that when he's sitting there so confident, Midori's like, oh my god, you figured it out. He's like, yes, I know who it is. I'm 80% sure. I'm 60% sure. 40-50% sure, and it's just like, oh my god, he's getting less and less confident with every word. I was like, I love that. I feel you on that. I feel, that's somewhat the human condition, but yeah, Ko's not the most confident person, so I love that. But yeah, they set their trap, and I was wondering, I was like, is it going to be like Arasai is the one who's doing it? And lo and behold, we find out she is. I thought it was interesting, like, she was getting dressed for work, but it's like, I mean, I guess it didn't take too long for Nazuna and Ko to, like, get to the balcony from the outside, but I still was like, you would think she'd probably be immediately dressed in that moment. The fact that she went to open the balcony at the time and didn't say anything, like, I think that kind of was kind of an early sign of it. But the reason why Ko figured it out ultimately, well, first and foremost, can't skip over the whole him and Midori being in the locker thing. And it's like, why are you hiding in the same locker with me? She's like, this is the only one that was unlocked. So they're pressed against each other, obviously giving you all the fan servicey shots. But she's kind of like, ooh, look at this. Like, you're in the same place as me. And, like, Midori's kind of enjoying this because it's like, oh, I thought I was kind of a no for you. He's like, dude, literally most people are a no for me. So, like, don't get too caught up on it. Because once again, he said, I don't know what a yes is for me. Obviously, a clear yes for you is Nazuna, but, either way, Arasai is the one who's taking the selfies, and for him, it's like, the photos were too good. It's like, there's such high-quality photos. Like, if you were just, like, outside snapping photos, you wouldn't, like, kind of worry about stuff like that. Like, the angles and the photos make the person look too cute, but also, first and foremost, the thing that he noticed is, like, they're not any upskirt shot. Like, if it was someone being, like, voyeuristic and stuff like that, they'd be taking advantage of all those type of shots. Like, but it was always, like, she was always, I mean, from the photos we saw, it was never like her in her underwear or like any like perverted shots. They were just kind of like sexy model-ish shots. And it's like, yes, Arasai was taking selfies. And that's also why she was probably in there longer. Even though it probably didn't take too long for Ko and Nazuna to get, to the balcony from outside. But you can probably make the argument she was also taking extra long because she was probably trying to set stuff up. Because she opens the window and stuff and sets up her camera on like a tripod. and has it set on a timer and stuff. And, Cole's trying to figure out why. And then Midori is like, oh, obviously she was number 2 and I came into the number 1 spot. So you wanted to kind of just prove like, hey, you still got it type of situation. Which I think it's interesting because I was almost wondering, like, since it was so like, well, that seems like the obvious motive. But I was wondering, like, could it be that there's actually something more to it? But it's like, no, Midori nailed it immediately. But, like, the thing is, Ko is not very good at this type, like, understanding this type of stuff. But, Midori's bringing up this whole point about how Arasai is kind of sick. It's a type of illness where it's like, hey, you want validation and you want to feel like, hey, I still got it. And she even talks about how, Ko in his own way is kind of sick. And Arasai is like, okay, I'll quit. But she's like, no. Like, sure, it's kind of wild doing what you're doing, but also at the same time, it's in the same bounds of normalcy. Because she's like, everyone's kind of sick and mess up in their own way. Like, the fact is, she's like, literally everyone, myself included, are all like seeking validation from other people. The fact of the matter is, the customers come here to validate people as well, and that give that attention to them. So, you might be sick, but like, so is everyone else. Like, it is the thing of everyone's kind of got that illness and wanting to be appreciated by people and complimented by people. Because Arasai talks about it too. She's like, sometimes she'll wake up in the morning and take photos, and then like all of a sudden, but she's always about trying to get cuter and cuter and try to make sure everything's just right. So she takes the same photo over and over again. It's like, I mean, you're pretty much an influencer at that point, because I'm sure there are regular people who aren't influencers that go to such extremes, but it's like everyone kind of has their own type of illness that kind of drives them. Because I think you could probably also make the argument operating the way he does, the whole wanting to be a vampire thing, probably stems from a little bit of an illness too. Not being able to deal well with people was its own kind of illness. And like, I think there's elements you can like, it's an illness that's just kind of part of the human condition. Like, obviously it's more extreme in others, but once again, like, what she's doing isn't like anything bad per se. So it's all it's like there's a deeper thing that needs to be, but I don't think it's to the it's such an argument, because like outside of the frame of the show, you'd be like, well, it's kind of a bad thing because it's like you're so focused on your image and trying to be cute and putting it out there. But it also is connected to her job where, but it's also like, well, that's insecurity and you needing validation like that. But it's like, people need some validation, at least to some extent. Like, everyone does, on whatever level and facet of your life is. Everyone needs validation, whether it's at work or just in your personal life in some shape or form. I don't think validation is necessarily a bad thing, as long as it's not like entirely consuming your life, the need for validation. As long as you're kind of content with like, well, some validation is good. It's not like you're trying to get everyone's validation. That's where it's like, it's such a slippery slope. So I'm like, the whole conversation of it being this illness is really interesting, because it is. And but once again, like, everyone's sick in their own regard. So I just thought it was interesting. But yeah, I also think it was kind of a cute final photo that they ended up taking together, because I think Arasai is good. And obviously she talks about the fact that she goes to maid cafes on her day off to talk to her favorite maids, and Midori ends up being one of them. So also, Nazuna decided that she's going to continue working at the maid cafe because the money's good. So yeah, I'm interested to see where things kind of go from here. I wonder, did Midori get what she wanted in the end? Maybe, maybe not, with the whole locker thing. The whole like Ko's validation in a lot of way, or attention. Like, she kind of got that, so I'm wondering if she's satisfied with that or not. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.